Yes. So, hey, Dan.
Hi.
So you and I together, this is almost our 20th anniversary,
That
and
is
Dan is 15 now. So we've talked a lot about what's made a great teacher, a great teaching experience, and what's been rough. So share with me like what you feel like really kind of sums up one of the most important things as far as being a teacher of a child with really complex medical needs, like Dan, who's nonverbal, has autism. What do you feel like really made a difference in our parents, our homeschool communication?
well, certainly with Dan being nonverbal, I think it's super important for every teacher to try to communicate how his day was, because him being nonverbal, he isn't able to tell us himself, and so knowing whether he felt bad or whether he slept a lot or any of those things, um, those are things that as a parent sometimes it means that we might need to adjust his medicine, or he's not feeling well, we need to take him to a doctor. But the communication in terms of whether it be email or a written dialogue, which Laura and I have done through the years, whether it be a notebook or just tracking his potty training or things of that nature, it allows for us to have some communication with the teacher to see how Dan's day was and to know if there's things that we need to adjust. Um, Dan isn't potty trained completely. He has different times where he does really well and other times where he doesn't do as well. And it's important for that communication to exist. There's times where we have to intervene on Dan's part to help that situation, and that's important as well. Not just to make him feel better, but to make the whole situation better, I guess, in terms of him learning and him being able to focus and whatnot.
I think you're right. So we've talked a lot. Dan's had lots and lots and lots of caregivers and teachers over the years. And I think your point about that whole kind of wiping the slate clean every day and not taking things personally is important.
Absolutely. We've had people who were younger who had a rough day with Dan, and that was kind of as much as they were able to take. And they kind of let us know that, and we moved on. And that's important too, that someone who is helping to care for Dan recognize, all right, I'm at a spot where I don't know that I need to continue. And that's super important to give that person the ability to say that. You don't want to ever have someone working with your child that is having a really, really hard time doing that. So being able to refresh your batteries every day and say, okay, Dan's nonverbal, he wasn't able to tell me that, and the mess that he made, whatever that mess may be, it wasn't on purpose. And to not hold a grudge, towards that, that's important. It's sometimes really hard to do. So it's an important factor as a parent and I think as a teacher to be able to do that.
And just to give everybody an idea, like, we've had some really intense behaviors as Dan has kind of grown, whether that's because he was getting ill, we went through a period with tonsils, but Dan has had some pretty significant aggressions. We've had, a teacher go to the ER and get stitches because Dan bit her on the top of the head and broke skin. She required medical attention. We've had, hair pulling and teachers pulled to the ground, and that sometimes cycles for weeks and months in teachers, and we are trying really intensive behavior intervention plans, and we're doing medications and looking at other interventions, lots of positive behavior supports, but the teachers are really, it's all hands-on 24/7 while we're going through those bouts and trying to figure out, is this a medical issue, a communication issue, is Dan constipated, like what the deal is. And I think your point about that whole clear communication is just crucial, especially how teachers communicate with us what happened, right? Because how they approach us makes all the difference in how we can all work together.
Absolutely. I mean, if they're able to see past the aggression and still approach it in a positive manner, that, you know, maybe Dan was trying to give us a hint and say this or say that in his own way. That's always super important for a parent to know, you know, that it gives people hope, and then, you know, that maybe one day there's some form of communication that their child may be able to gather and say, whether it's through PECs or whether it's, you know, with an iPad or whatever. So all of the, you know, how the teacher approaches the communication with the parent back and forth with those emails, and letting them know that, you know, we had a rough day, you know, today, but it's all good. We're gonna try tomorrow, and we're gonna keep moving forward. That's a huge. I don't know exactly how to say that, but it's it's a very big deal in terms of being a parent of a child with disabilities, and one especially who's nonverbal. You know, because you're giving that child a voice every time that teacher is communicating how their day is and whatnot, and that's super important.